Hello and welcome to the I Can Do podcast with Benjamin Lee. We're here to talk about tips and strategies to have an I Can Do mindset. Life is what you put into it. Get the most you can. Here's your host, Benjamin Lee.
Hello and welcome to season number 5, episode number 6 of the I Can Do podcast. Really excited about today's show, and I hope and pray that this will help you to think about some things about life, about what the Bible has to say. You know, my family and I, me, my wife, and my son, we have been doing a daily devo. It's been almost a year, where last year we started, I think it was in October last year actually, we started in the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament. We began by reading 5 verses a day. We just took it 5 verses a day, and it would take maybe a couple of weeks sometimes to read a chapter or faster or longer, depending on if we got off track. Well, this week we wrapped up the book of Proverbs. We wrapped up Proverbs chapter 31. Are you familiar with that chapter? So this is a chapter that many women are familiar with, because in Proverbs chapter 31 and verse 10, it says, "An excellent wife who can find." This idea of a virtuous woman. What a blessing it is to be able to find an excellent woman like this to be your wife. I don't know how often men read Proverbs chapter 31, or single men for that matter, but it would be a great idea for them to read this, as well as parents and women. So the title of this podcast is called, "Will You Listen to This Woman?" Will you listen to this woman? I say that because in Proverbs chapter 31, verse number 1, it says, "The words of King Lemuel, the oracle which his mother taught him. What, O my son? And what, O son of my womb? And what, O son of my vows? Do not give your strength to women, or your ways to that which destroys kings. It is not for kings, O Lemuel, it is not for kings to drink wine, or for rulers to desire strong drink. For they will drink and forget what is decreed, and pervert the rights of all the afflicted. Give strong drink to him who is perishing, and wine to him whose life is bitter. Let him drink and forget his poverty, and remember his trouble no more. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all the unfortunate. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and defend the rights of the afflicted and needy." There were a couple of thoughts that stood out to us as we were reading through this proverb in the very first, those are the first 9 verses, where you have a king, and this is the oracle which his mother taught him. You can look at this and you can see that there's great wisdom being given. Number 1, stay away from ungodly women. He's being given instruction by that, or given those instructions by his mom. That's great wisdom, right? Stay away from ungodly women. Number 2, refrain from drinking. That's great wisdom as well. Then number 3, always judge righteously. Verse 9 really caught my attention after going to a fundraiser to help children to be adopted. Verse 9, it says, "Open your mouth, judge righteously, and defend the rights of the afflicted and needy." You know, there are children out there that are in need. And there are children that are fatherless. And what a great opportunity for us to help individuals like that. Sacredselections.org is a website you can go to if you're looking to support adoption and to help children find good Christian homes. So I'm sharing all of this with you before I get too far off track, because the words of the king here are the oracle which his mother taught him. Now I want you to listen to what else she has to say about an excellent wife. In verse 10, the Bible says, "An excellent wife who can find? For her worth is far above jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. Turning my page. She looks for wool and flax, and with her hands in delight, and works with her hands in delight. She is like merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is still night, and gives food to her household, and portions to her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. From her earnings she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She senses that her gain is good. Her lamp does not go out at night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hands grasp the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor, and she stretches out her hands to the needy. She's not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes coverings for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them, and supplies belts to the tradesmen. Verse 25. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future. She opens her mouth in wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and bless her, her husband also, and he praises her, saying, Many daughters have done nobly, but you excel them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the product of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Will we listen to this woman? The king's mom gave him some instructions and things to remember. And we have these words here about a beautiful woman, an excellent wife. But will we listen to this woman? Let me tell you what I mean by that. When I say, will we listen to this woman, what I mean by that is the wisdom that we have here, the woman that is described as being excellent or virtuous in nature. Far often, we don't always view this kind of woman as being beautiful. One thing that stood out to me, and you can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, I don't really find any physical attributes described of this woman in this text. Now, it doesn't mean that a woman can't be beautiful or that men cannot be handsome, but I think it's fascinating that this woman that is being discussed, who is excellent and who fears the Lord, there's nothing here that is really, emphasizing how she looks. Our society focuses a lot upon the physical features. Again, there's nothing wrong taking care of our bodies. In fact, we should. There's nothing wrong getting our hair did. I remember my preacher in Rockford, that's what he used to say. Fingernails done, all those things. But I wonder if we focus too much on those. When I read verse 30, it says, charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. Beauty is passing. It will change in the process of time. Our society, especially when it comes to women, there's so much focus on lips, hips, and fingertips. I remember hearing that from my preacher as well. And, there's just so much emphasis on what we look like, our physical features. Curves, all those things. During our Devo yesterday, or a couple of days by the time this podcast is recorded and posted, we were talking about 2020 when the quarantine began and how so many women, this was on social media and, people were talking about it, but there was almost like panic when the hair couldn't get done and the color of the hair began to change. And again, I can understand the importance of wanting to maintain a certain look and how that's important for all of us. But there was a really huge, it felt like a huge outcry when it came to all of that. And what a great opportunity and joy it was when the barber shops were opened up again, when the hair salons were opened up again. Well, that's all good, but beauty eventually is going to fade. Our bodies are going to change. Yet this woman here stands out. She stands out because of her fear that she has for God. A second thing that really caught our attention and why it's good to listen to this woman is that she had great concern for her family. I mentioned to my wife, Nikki, I wonder, if you took some time to look at Proverbs chapter 31, where the emphasis would be. Many times this chapter has been used by companies to really encourage women to work harder, to do more, to do more, to do more. And it's fine for women to work and to be successful and to advance for sure. But when I look at this chapter here, there is a lot of emphasis upon her family and the love that her family has for her, the love that she has for her family. Will we listen to this woman, the king's mom who gave him some instructions? Will we listen to this woman? Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Well, that's the kind of woman we want our young men to think about and to consider when they decide to get married one day. And yet society puts so much emphasis upon what we look like. And while physical attraction is important in a marriage and a relationship, charm is deceitful and beauty is vain. But a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. That's a beautiful woman. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she smiles at the future, verse 25. That's a beautiful woman. A woman who is confident, a woman who loves her family, a woman who loves the Lord. But will we listen to this woman and really consider what we find in Proverbs chapter 31? Those were some thoughts that we took away from our Devo that I really wanted to share with you. And I appreciate you listening. I'd love to hear from you and what you have to say and what you think about Proverbs chapter 31. Maybe this is the first time that you've read from this chapter or ever heard this chapter. It's a great chapter to read. And, as you think about this woman here, she didn't get to this place in a single day or a single week or a single month. But there is this progression, there's this growth, there's this maturity that she has. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Let's think about that. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. If you are in the need or looking for more motivation in your life, feel free to check out my website, benjaminlee.blog, where you can find hundreds of encouraging, motivational blog posts on a variety of subjects. You can find all of my books, which can also be found on Amazon.com, and other podcast interviews with a variety of people. I hope this helps. Please leave me a rating and a review. I can do, and so can you. Take care, and God bless.